Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of As the Crow Flies Hiking. Today I've got an interesting video I think for you guys. I'm here with Backcountry Pilgrim, Doug, and Mark Goes Hiking. His name is Mark. So we're going to do an interesting video today. We are going to talk about dinner, backcountry food and preparation, and all the things that you do surrounding getting to camp, setting up camp and all those things. But that's not the only video in this series. There's two other videos. There is a video that's going to be on Mark Goes Hiking's channel where he talks about breakfast and all those things around breakfast. And we even drink some cold coffee on that video. And it was yucky. No, it was pretty good. I'm just kidding. And then the second part of this video is going to be Backcountry Pilgrim did a video in this series about lunch and hydration or snacks and things like that in the process of eating on the trail. So we're going to get started here today with my video talking about dinner and the process of getting to camp and all that stuff that goes along with it. So I'm going to first ask Mark Goes Hiking. Mark, tell me a little bit about what you do when you get to camp and all the things surrounding a meal, if you have a meal.
I do have a meal. It's actually the only meal that I really consider that I have a meal. Breakfast is kind of quick and easy. Lunch is grazing throughout the day. When I get to camp, I like to have a hot meal. And I have done trips where I've just taken, I called it like frontier backpacking, where I just brought like biscuits and jerky type of stuff. And like, what would the frontiersmen or the cowboys do? You know, the people driving the herds, you know. But typically I like to get to camp and have a hot meal. But I set up camp first. I like to get established. So I'll get to camp, I'll set up my tent, and then if I'm really hot, I'll actually lay down for like a half hour and cool down, just let my body temperature cool back down, especially for summer hiking. Once I'm established, kind of get everything set up, everything, you know, I'm just cool down, relax, get my shirt changed, then I'll actually sit down, get my water boiling, and cook a hot meal. And I've got right behind me a Mountain House meal. It's typically what I'll do. I love the lasagna. I'm pretty boring. I do the lasagna probably 9 out of 10 nights. It's good. It's filling. Kind of tastes like I'm eating lasagna at home. I actually think it's a really good meal. So that's what I do. I spice it up. I do bring Parmesan cheese, and I throw that in there as well. That helps give it some better flavor.
Do you do anything other than the Mountain House meals? Or is that just kind of the go-to thing, or you do other things?
That's mostly it. Sometimes when I first get to camp and set up my tent, I might have a meat stick or something like that. But typically the Mountain House is my entire dinner.
Doug, do you do the same thing, or do you have a full meal, or what do you do when you get to camp?
Definitely, if I'm doing an overnight, I want dinner to be pretty good. I don't want to go to bed hungry because it will keep me awake. So part of getting a good night's sleep, especially if it's cold, is having a nice warm meal. So yeah, I don't do the snack for dinner type thing. I want some legit food. And, you know, really, once it gets dark, pretty much just going to be kicking back anyway, so might as well take the time to cook well. Yeah, I'm a fan of the prepackaged. I am not a camp cook. I don't like to bring a bunch of ingredients and sit there and monkey around with it. I just want to heat up some water, dump it in a pouch, and eat. So I've actually been experimenting with some of these. I got a couple Mountain House meals. You know, the lasagna is a pretty popular one. This is Backpacker's Pantry. I have not tried these yet. This is Pad Thai, which I love. One of my theories is that you really should try to eat on the trail what you like at home. I'm not going to eat some weird curry chicken, something that I never have in my life. The last thing I want to do is get on the trail, be super hungry, and then, oh, guess what? I don't actually like this very much. So I try to eat these meals when I'm just regularly hungry and see if they taste good. I know everything kind of tastes better once you're in camp, but it is possible to be really hungry and then not want to eat what you have, and that's a terrible feeling to have. So I try to make sure I really actually like what I'm bringing out.
Are you setting your tent up and all that? You said it's the last thing you do. So you're setting a tent up, or if you build a fire, are you doing all those things first, then you're eating, or are you eating first?
I do everything first. I get everything out of the way, and once I am happy with my camp and I could go to bed if I needed to, that's when I cook.
Okay. And Mark, what about you? Do you set up? You said you set up first, but is it the very last thing you do is to eat?
Yeah, I would say so. Unless there's a campfire, I'll get the fire. Yeah, actually, yeah, because even if I do a campfire, I'm going to get that fire going first, and then I'm going to eat around the fire. Now, during this hot summer months, I do not like having a fire at all, because it's like, it's 85 degrees out. Why do I want to start a fire? And I know a lot of people love having a fire no matter what. I am not that guy. But yeah, if it's cooler, I'll start a fire, and then I'll cook my meal then. So I will say this, though. The first night out on the trail, I love to do something a little special. So I will, I'll boil up some bratwursts like the day before I go hiking, and I'll deep freeze those, and I'll take those out on the trail. And so the first night, probably get a fire going, and even if it's a small one, if it's hot outside, and I'll warm those brats up, and I'll put those in a wrap with like some green pepper. I'll take those, or I'll take those small little peppers you can get at the store, little baby peppers, and maybe even bring out a little bit of block cheese and just wrap those up, and that is delicious. So I love that on the first night. That's a treat for me all the time.
That sounds great. Oh, go ahead, Doug. What were you saying?
I say just, yeah, that sounds amazing. I need to get better at like actually cooking. Again, just kind of like I said in the lunch video, I think a big part of my problem is I'm just not that good of a cook. So it's hard for me to know like what do I like on the trail that I can bring all the ingredients that I need, that they're not going to go bad. You know, do you freeze it first? I just, my laziness kicks in, and, you know, if I can just grab a pre-made pouch of something and just boil some water and dump it in, it's hard for me to get away from that. And I want to get better at eating on the trail.
And I don't know if you guys have done this, but I guess over the evolution of me backpacking, I think I started with these things. These are like those KNORR sides, like the chicken fried rice or the cheddar broccoli or one of those. And I would use those, but I think we discussed this before, Doug, like I don't want to clean a pot at the end of the night if I don't have to. So the convenience of these mountain houses to pour in the water and be done with it and not clean a pot, it's just an extra step that I don't have to take. Do y'all have the same opinion?
Yeah, I just don't like cleaning. I like to just, you know, my pot, spoon. If I've got to really do a bunch of dishes at the end of the night, that's just not when I want to be worrying about that kind of stuff.
The one exception that I make a lot of times is I've become a big fan of the ramen noodle, the chicken and stuff. Have y'all experimented with using a freezer bag with your ramen noodle instead of putting it in your pot? Or do y'all ever do ramen? Or Mark, do you ever do a ramen bomb?
Heck no. I don't want to touch that stuff I'll starve to death first before I, one, eat ramen, secondly, eat a ramen bomb. That sounds terrible to me. It would take a lot.
Doug, do you ever experiment with ramen or potatoes and ramen or do the ramen bomb?
You can actually watch me eat my very first ramen bomb. I think I saw it on Maddie Outdoors, and then there was another one. There was a couple that came out, and I realized that I had never had ramen. I had never had Spam. And so I was just kind of laughing because it's like, that's basically, you know, what the ingredients to this thing were, plus the dried potatoes, which I probably have had. I made my very first ramen bomb on camera, tried it for the very first time on camera, and then not very much longer after that, I did my first overnight backpacking trip in quite a while. So that's what I brought with me for that night too. I think I made some mistakes. I definitely would not do the Spam. I really like Maddie's idea of doing the beef jerky instead. But and I also used garlic potatoes, which kind of really, between that and the salt and everything else, it was just way too much. I mean, I get about 5 bites into it, I have to drink a gallon of water. But I think with just plain potatoes, that mixture, that texture and everything, it was actually really tasty. I liked it a lot.
I mean, it does give you a lot of good calories, the ramen, and I can see why a thru hiker would, because the calories really go up with the ingredients that you put in. But for me, and I was going to ask you guys, for me, at the end of the day, I'm usually going into my snack bag and whatever snacks I've saved throughout the day. My recent favorite is these Thomas pick-me-ups. They're these little chocolate chip granola things that are good. They're oatmeal squares kind of thing. Or my favorite thing to do is to go into my kids' lunch storage that my wife has for the lunch for school, and I steal their snacks. So, in fact, I ate one of their gummies. These are the Avenger gummies. I ate a whole bag of these before this video because I was waiting and they were sitting here and I couldn't help myself. Do y'all do that? Do y'all eat any snacks after your dinner?
I usually go to bed because that's kind of like my last thing that I do. So usually by the time I'm done eating, I'm stuffed and I'm sleepy and I'm ready to hit it.
Mark, what about you? You eat anything at the end of the night?
No. I do have a tradition though, like on the first night when it's colder. So you guys don't experience cold where you live, but in Michigan we have this thing called winter, and spring and fall, and it can be cold. And that's when I like to hike. I actually don't like summer hiking that much because I frankly hate hiking in humidity. So oftentimes that first night I'll take bratwurst with me, but I'll also take like a stout, because you can have a stout is the best flavor when it's just a little bit below like room temperature, you know. So if you're drinking like in the high 50 degrees, so if you take that out cold, it might be a little warmer than you want it. I'll eat dinner on that first night and I'll drink a stout oftentimes in the fall. But other than that, no, I don't. I eat dinner and I go to sleep. I have another tradition though that I could have brought up in the breakfast. Let me put this disclaimer out there. I actually don't drink hardly at all. I maybe have like a beer a month, but when I go backpacking in the fall or when it's colder out in general, I'll have a beer my first night. But then every morning, I don't know where this tradition started, but I carry a flask with me with scotch in it, and I take one swig of scotch in the morning, every morning. I did it this summer too when we went on the trips. It's just something I do. I think I just toast Mother Nature or something. I don't know.
It's interesting you say that, Mark, because I'm not a drinker. I never have been, but I usually will get the first night, bring these little small Dr. Peppers, like the 7-ounce Dr. Peppers, a real small one, so that I can get rid of it the first night. But that first night, I like to have, that carbonated taste after some real heavy lasagna in the Mountain House meal. I do like a Dr. Pepper that first night. What about you, Doug? Do you drink anything at night or have any special thing at night that you do?
No, not really. I mean, I would like to have a beer or a soda or something with me, but I just don't really like those warm, and I don't really want to pack the can around, so I haven't. But I could see it being really tasty. When you're eating that kind of food, washing it down with warm water is pretty nasty. But I usually just go with whatever my drink is. Again, I usually try to go with flavored drinks, so even when Gatorade or like the Nutrilite stuff gets a little warm, it still has a flavor to it. And I usually just want to kind of wash it down. I'm not really trying to make it like a really nice beverage that I enjoy. I'm usually more about the food at night.
So the last thing I wanted to ask y'all is about your process after dinner. Do you go straight to sleep after that, or do you prepare for the next morning after you eat to think about your process for the next day?
I try to have everything ready. Of course, there's only so much you can do, because if you've got to, hang a bear bag or hide a vault or whatever, there's only so much prep you can really do. You don't want all that stuff in your tent with you. I usually just like to leave my cooking stuff in the vestibule where it's going to be, so that when I get up, I don't really have a lot of overcomplicated stuff. So that's one of the nice things about not having to do dishes, is I can just dump any excess water out of the pot and just set it right there on the ground next to the stove. When I get up, just dump some water in there, fire it up, go over to my food, get whatever it is I'm making for breakfast. By the time I get back, settled in the tent, water's boiling and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, what about you, Mark?
Yeah, if it's not cool out, that's kind of my process. In the cooler months, when I go hiking, if it cools down nice, I'm gonna have that fire. So I'm probably going to eat when the fire gets going, but then I'll sit around the fire for a while, and maybe like an hour or so, and just really kick back and relax. And if I'm hiking with somebody, that's just great conversation. In fact, this trip to Kentucky that we were on, you were snoozing. Jeremiah and we stayed up until like, I don't know, it was like freaking 1:30 in the morning or something like that. That was not cool for the next morning. I felt bad. I think we slept in pretty good on you. You probably already did a loop or something before we got out of bed, but I like to talk at night if there's a fire going. And it cooled down that night, so that was actually really nice.
Yeah, and the one issue that I have, it's really bad, is I've got a sweet tooth. I always have. As I'm getting older, it's getting worse and worse that I need to really work on it. But I also sometimes will bring some like M&Ms, like the peanut flavored M&Ms. Just one tip on that: if the temperatures get too high, it melts, and I've caused some issues with that. So, you got to be careful with that chocolate as a snack for the night.
I thought M&Ms only melted in your mouth.
Not at like 78 degrees, I think, when it was on our trip.
false, fake news, false advertising.
You know what, Crow? I'll tell you something. I've been reading one of Andrew Skirka's books, and I was really enthused by his comment on snacks, because he said that for a long time he tried to go like super healthy and bring stuff with him that was, better for him to eat. And he would just have these huge cravings that he just couldn't even hardly deal with. He said, you know what, now when he goes hiking, he just brings whatever he wants to eat. And chocolate is his thing. Like he says right in the book, chocolate is my thing. He doesn't really go into a whole lot of like storage and stuff, but he just pounds it. Like he will just eat chocolate as much as he wants. So you have it from one of the, the world's greatest hikers that bring what you want when you want to eat it. The way I figured, I'm not backpacking, half the year like I would, like some people. So when I go on a backpacking trip, I bring what I want and I just don't worry about it. I can make up for diet problems and stuff like that when I get home. But when I'm out there on the trail, like I want to eat what I want to eat. So don't feel bad about the way you do it.
Yeah, there's an engagement thing there too, and kind of a morale booster there,
Yeah, we're out there to have a good time, and I backpack sometimes so I can eat a little more when I've burned those calories through the day. So that's a good point. Thanks, Doug, and thanks, Mark. Well, I guess, guys, that'll do it for this episode of As the Crow Flies Hiking. I hope you will like this video, and if you hadn't already done it, I hope you'll subscribe to my channel and hit the little bell notification so that you get a notice of the next video that comes out on As the Crow Flies Hiking. I'd really like to thank Backcountry Pilgrim, Doug, for coming along, joining this discussion, and also Mark Goes Hiking. I really appreciate these guys, and I hope that you will go to their video and watch their part of this discussion that we're having with Mark about breakfast and with Doug about hydration and lunch and snacks and things like that. Anyway, guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time on the next adventure of As the Crow Flies Hiking.
Don't screw it up, Brad.
I won't screw it up, I promise.
Are you crying? There's no crying in video recording.
Now he's going to be all self-conscious. Don't screw this up, Brad. Don't mess up. All of our batteries are dying. Come on, man.
I'm going to be up all night. Mark made me drink this stinking cold brew coffee. It's like 9 o'clock at night, and I won't be able to sleep. I don't know if I'm going to make it to work tomorrow.